It's been 40 minutes. You stopped enjoying this about 35 minutes ago. You're not laughing. You're not learning anything. Your thumb keeps moving anyway. And underneath it, quietly, what is wrong with me? Nothing. Genuinely, nothing. What you just watched yourself do is your brain running exactly as designed. That's not a comfort line. It's mechanics. And the mechanism is stranger than you have no willpower. Here's the enemy, and it's a sentence you've said about yourself. If I'm still doing it, I must like it. And if I like something this empty, something must be wrong with me. You've applied that sentence 100 times. To the fridge you open, stare into, and close. To the app you deleted and reinstalled. To the third episode you never actually chose to watch. Watch for this one tonight. You close the app. You put the phone face down. 9 seconds later your thumb has opened it again. Same app, same screen. You didn't decide anything. And there's a specific flavor to it around 1 in the morning. You're not entertained. You're not relaxed. You're somewhere flatter than either. Awake, blank, and still going. When researchers interrupt people mid-scroll and ask how much they're enjoying it, the answers aren't great. Not misery, just mild. Lower than people expect. And they carry on scrolling, which is the strange part. So whatever is holding your thumb there, it isn't fun. Fun would have let go the moment it ran out. Something else took the wheel, and it never checks whether you're having a good time. This is bigger than a phone habit. It's the same thing behind opening the fridge with no appetite, rereading an email you've already read, checking a bank balance that hasn't changed, or the parcel. You tracked it for 4 days. You thought about it in meetings. It arrived, you opened it in 9 seconds, and then there was just a thing on the table. Notice the shape of that. The strongest feeling is always just before. Before you order, before you open, before you refresh. The peak almost never lands on the thing itself. It lands on the approach, which is backwards if pleasure is running the show. It isn't. There are 2 separate systems in your head doing 2 different jobs, and we've been using one word for both of them. Psychologists call them wanting and liking. Wanting pulls you towards something. Liking is the actual pleasure once it's yours. Most of the time they travel together, so we assume they're the same event. They're not. Researchers can pull them apart in animals. Take the dopamine away, and an animal still makes the same pleasure reaction to sugar on its tongue. It still likes it. It just won't go get it. Run it the other way. Turn that system up, and animals work harder and harder for a reward they don't appear to enjoy any more than they did before. More wanting. Same liking. So dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical. It's closer to a go-get-it signal. Researchers call it incentive salience. The way a cue starts to glow and pull and feel far more important than it is. Liking runs on something much smaller. Narrow little pleasure hotspots, different chemistry, easily satisfied and easily filled up. Wanting is the loud system. Liking is the quiet one. That imbalance is your entire evening. The loud system says go. The quiet one says, honestly, this is about a 5 out of 10. Guess which one your thumb is listening to. There's a second twist, and it's the one that explains your thumb. Dopamine doesn't fire when the reward arrives. Not once you've learned the pattern. It fires at the cue that predicts the reward. In the classic monkey experiments, a signal came before a squirt of juice. Once the animals learned it, the neurons stopped responding to the juice. They responded to the signal. The reward became old news. Here's your version. The spike isn't the funny video. It's the pull to refresh. The loading spinner. That half second where the next thing hasn't arrived yet and could still be anything. Which is why the best moment of the scroll is the moment before the content. You're not really consuming entertainment. You're buying lottery tickets. And the ticket feels better than the prize. And the payoff is deliberately unpredictable. Most posts are nothing. Every so often, one actually lands. You can't tell which is coming, and you never will. That's not an accident of design. Unpredictable rewards keep the wanting signal alive indefinitely. A vending machine that always drops a snack gets boring fast. One that pays out sometimes gets checked forever, by everyone, for years. Here's the part that stings. You already know you'll feel worse afterwards. You've known that for months. You do it anyway, and then you take that as evidence about your character. It isn't. None of this requires weakness. Hand any brain a cue that reliably predicts an unpredictable reward, and you get the same thumb. You're not the exception. You're the standard equipment working. And the other half of it. Liking fades with repetition. The 4th episode of anything is worse than the first. But the wanting doesn't fade at the same rate. Sometimes it sharpens instead. Repeated cues can make the wanting system more responsive over time, not less. So the gap widens. Less pleasure, more pull. That gap is the exact shape of an evening you didn't choose. This explains something that used to confuse me. You can be bored and compelled at the same time. Those aren't contradictory feelings. They're two systems handing you two different readings at once. So is dopamine the villain here? No. It's the same signal that gets you out of bed, chases a deadline, wants to see a friend. Switch it off, and you don't get peace. You get nothing. You don't want less wanting. You want it pointed at things that pay you back. Right now it's pointed at whatever gives the fastest, least predictable feedback within arm's reach, which is the phone. And the real things in your life are terrible at fast feedback. A book pays late. A run pays afterwards. A proper conversation pays quietly, and sometimes days later. None of them ping. So they lose the auction. Not because you value them less. You'd rate every one of them higher, honestly, but because they don't bid at the exact moment the choice gets made. So here's what actually helps, and none of it is willpower. All of it is about pulling wanting and liking apart on purpose, where you can see both of them clearly. First, score it out loud. Mid-scroll, ask yourself one question. How much am I enjoying this? 1 to 10. You're not deciding anything. You're not quitting. Just say the number. The number is nearly always lower than you'd have guessed. That's not guilt, it's data. You're finally reading the quiet gauge, and the loud one really doesn't enjoy being audited. It works because wanting is automatic and liking needs attention to register at all. Saying the score out loud forces the attention. Half the time the thumb just stops on its own, which surprises people. Second, decide what you're opening the app for before you open it. One sentence, out loud. Reply to Sam. Watch the thing about the boat. Then use search, not the feed. The feed is a corridor with no end, which means the wanting never resolves. Search has a finish line, and a want that gets resolved is the only kind that leaves you alone afterwards. Third, cut the cues, not the craving. Badges, previews, that icon parked exactly where your thumb rests. Those don't tempt you. They manufacture the wanting in the first place, from nothing. Turn off the little red numbers. Move the app off your first screen. You're not resisting anything with more grit. You're just declining to light the fuse 40 times a day. Fourth, put 3 minutes between the urge and the app. Phone in another room, glass of water, anything. Wanting spikes hard, and then falls away on its own if nothing feeds it. Then ask the liking question again, from outside the pull. Sometimes you'll open it anyway, and that's completely fine. But you'll be choosing, and choosing is a different act entirely. And one longer-term move, book the slow things. The ones you genuinely like, but never crave. They start dull, they never advertise, and they're the only things that pay you an actual liking. Fair warning about when this fails. On flat, exhausted days the loud system wins more often. There's a decision fatigue thing going on there, which is its own video. Don't read one bad evening as proof. Also, don't expect the wanting to go quiet. It won't. The goal was never a calm brain. The goal is noticing which gauge is talking and getting a vote before your thumb does. And please don't turn this into a purge. People swear off everything pleasurable for a week and call it a reset. Wanting isn't a toxin you flush out. It's a signal you aim. So quickly, dopamine isn't pleasure, it's pursuit. Wanting and liking are separate systems, and they come apart quietly until you're chasing something you stopped enjoying a long time ago. The spike sits on the cue, not the reward. Unpredictable payoffs keep it burning. Liking fades with repetition while wanting sharpens. That widening gap is your one in the morning. And the fixes, all of them small. Score the enjoyment out loud. Name the one thing before you open the app. Cut the cues. Put 3 minutes between the urge and the screen. So, 40 minutes in, thumb still moving. That voice asking what's wrong with you. Nothing is. You're being handed a want with no like attached to it, over and over, by something built to do exactly that. Knowing the difference doesn't make you immune. Nobody's immune. It makes you interruptible, which sounds like a small win, and honestly, at 11 at night, it's the only one that matters. If that made your own head make a bit more sense, that's what this channel is for. I'm Theo. We're taking apart the machinery of being a person, one video at a time. Stick around, there's a lot of it.